Welcome back to The Walk. It's so good to be with you as we're heading into this Christmas season. We just finished Thanksgiving, and I hope you had a really good time with your family. Now we're all getting ready and prepared for the holidays that, I don't know, 2, 3 weeks away, that we get to celebrate Christmas and family comes together and we get to celebrate the birth of Christ. So just exciting things that are happening today. As I was driving down just country roads close to where our new house is being built, I saw a couple of pickup trucks with Christmas trees, fresh Christmas trees in the back of the trucks, and it was like, oh, that's so exciting, because you know that they're heading home to decorate their Christmas tree today. So just really neat times for us to gather together as family to celebrate the birth of Christ. So I thought about, what do I want to share with you in this season? And the thing that came to my mind was actually a blog that I wrote a couple of years ago. And so some of you may have read it, but it's just a story, kind of a creative angle on the birth of Christ that I wrote that really means a lot to me. So it's actually divided into 3 different sections. So what I would like to do is just tell you a story, just read you a story. So I'm going to share with you the first part, and then the next week we'll do part 2, and then the week after that, right before Christmas, we will do part 3. So the title of this blog is A Broken and Empty Jar. And what I was able to do and see in my crazy creative mind at times was a jar that was given to Mary from a little girl. And so we're going to kind of take a journey for the next 3 weeks on what happens to this jar and the significance of this jar in our lives. So listen to me as I read to you the story about Mary and a little girl named Sarah. The days were long and hot. The nights were cold and dark. The young couple had traveled for several days in the flatlands along the Jordan River and had now reached the hills surrounding Jerusalem. Bethlehem was finally within reach. Dirt clung to their feet as though providing a layer of protection. The woman shifted positions as she rode on the donkey as often as she could. Her tired and worn body felt the movement of her child growing within her, giving the determination to complete the journey. As the sun began to set, the road seemed to disappear. They would soon approach their destination, and the woman knew that when they reached the town, that they would be able to rest. Sarah played in the dirt outside her front door. She loved the early evening when her chores were finished and her mother allowed her to play safely in front of the house. She watched the other children from the town as they ran down the street, but her mother told her that she was too young to join them. So she sat quietly in the soft dirt, stacking wooden blocks her father had made for her. As she stacked her blocks, she heard rustling in the road. She quickly grabbed her blocks, escaping the falling of her tower as various strangers rode by on their donkeys loaded with supplies. Her mother had told her that it was time for the census. Confused, of course, at this word, her mother explained to her that every few years people from all over had to travel to their place of birth in order for the government to count how many people lived in the area. That seemed silly to Sarah, but she loved watching the strangers come down the street nevertheless. Sarah continued to play when she noticed a man and a woman approaching. When she looked up, she saw a young woman on a donkey with her hand resting on top of her large stomach. This woman looked so tired. So Sarah ran quickly inside of her house to grab a clay jar, filling it with water. As Sarah stepped outside, the man and the woman approached her house. With her tiny frame, she struggled to stretch her legs to reach the woman on the donkey. When the woman saw Sarah struggle, she reached out and grabbed the jar from her. Grateful for this water, she looked into Sarah's eyes as she greeted her with a smile. "Hello. My name is Mary, and this is my husband Joseph. What is your name?" As Sarah backed away from the donkey, she answered, "My name is Sarah. We live here in Bethlehem, and this is my father's inn." Mary looked at the building in front of her. "It's a beautiful inn. Maybe we can stay here tonight. I hope to see you later." Mary took a sip of the water from the jar and then handed it back. Sarah said to her for her to keep it just in case she got thirsty later in the evening. In Isaiah chapter 55:1, it says, "Is anyone thirsty? Come and drink." Lord, I'm so thirsty today, but I don't know what I'm thirsty for. I'm thirsty for direction in my marriage. I'm thirsty for direction in my life. I look and search for purpose and meaning. And yes, occasionally I am a little more satisfied than other times, but it seems to run out. That I'm left thirsty, stranded in the desert, looking for another well. I'm thirsty for connection and relationships. There are days when I stare at my phone, longing for a text for connection. I try to put my thirst aside, but the desire to drink is relentless. God, I'm so thirsty. My lips are dry, my mouth longs to be moistened. Could I have just one sip of water? In John chapter 4:13, it says, Jesus said, "Everyone who drinks this water will be thirsty again, but whoever drinks the water that I give them will never thirst again. Indeed, the water I give them will become in them a spring of water, welling up to eternal life." Jesus, I want to drink from this well. I need the spring of water to well up inside of me that only you can give. Later that evening, Sarah walked into her father's room as he was writing in his ledger. As she stepped into the door, he looked up at Sarah with a smile on his face. It had been a long time since she had seen her father smile in this way. "We're full, Sarah. For the first time in a long time, we're full. There is no more room in the inn." "I'm so happy for you, Father. But didn't a woman named Mary and her husband find a room? She was going to have a baby." "No, I'm sorry, sweet girl. The inn was full." Sarah walked away sad and concerned for this woman. As she stepped outside the door, she turned to ask her father if he knew where they went. He replied, "I told them about the stable down the road. I think they went that direction. It is that stable that you and your brother play in at times." Sarah knew exactly where the stable was. It was old, but it could provide good shelter for Mary and her husband. Tomorrow, she would go and see them. That night, as Sarah crawled under her blankets, she said a prayer for the woman that she met on the road that day. Then she closed her eyes and she fell asleep. So join me next week as we continue the story of this jar. What happened to it? Where did it go? Did Mary take it? Did Mary use it? And what did Sarah do the next day when she woke up? So join me next week as we will continue the story of Mary and Sarah in the jar.